months of hype and anticipation, Absolute Batman #1 is finally here. And folks, I'm here to tell you that as far as this issue is concerned, meh. So this book is the first of 3 new titles that will comprise DC's Absolute Universe, which is essentially its answer to the Ultimate Universe over at Marvel. These are different, more modernish, I guess, takes on these classic characters, and of course they can do things with them that they wouldn't do in the normal continuity because they're not beholden to that normal continuity. Our author here is Scott Snyder. And Scott Snyder being back on a Batman book is a big deal because he might be the most celebrated Batman writer of the last 15 years or so. He introduced the Court of Owls into Batman's world. That sort of leather-faced version of the Joker, that was him. He also did Batman Zero Year, but we won't hold that against him. But yeah, Absolute Batman is Scott Snyder's opportunity to present us with his unique vision of the Batman character and his universe. What we get here is something more edgy, a little bit more bloody as far as Batman and Alfred are concerned. Batman doesn't become the Punisher, but he does become more Punisher-like. And that's fine, I guess. It's just that this issue didn't grab me like I really needed it to in order to keep reading. When I talked about the DC All-In special last week, I think I actually said on camera that I would give Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, and Absolute Wonder Woman each 1 issue to impress me, to essentially justify their existence to me. And you know, as good as the art looks from Nick Dragotta and Frank Martin, and as much as I respect Scott Snyder as a writer, I'm going to take a pass on this one. Just not a unique enough spin to justify me spending an extra $5 a month on it, quite frankly. With these Absolute books, I'm looking for something different. I'm looking for something unique, like a unique kind of spin to hook me in and get me invested, and I just didn't see that with Absolute Batman #1. Hopefully we have better luck with Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman. Absolute Wonder Woman #1 is a fantastic opening statement on Diana and her world. Maybe one of the best I've ever seen. So yeah, when I talked about Absolute Batman #1 a couple weeks ago, I just wasn't really impressed. I said there wasn't a hook to draw me in and keep me there for future issues. A lot of people pushed back at me for that, which is fine, but yeah, that was how I felt. I wasn't into it. With Absolute Wonder Woman #1, I pretty much had the exact opposite experience. They really hooked me with this one. This version of Wonder Woman was taken to hell as a baby, as the last of the Amazons, and raised in hell by a single mother, and we get a bunch of flashback scenes of her growing up in this book, along with a present-day sequence of her fighting a bunch of monsters near a big city. Really hot opening sequence for this issue. We've got like a floating island in the sky from which a bunch of red, demonic, pterodactyl-type creatures basically fly toward the city, and Wonder Woman has to meet them. Hayden Sherman is our penciler for this book, and he does fantastic with the demonic, hellish type imagery, along with Jordi Belair, who's our colorist. They're great consistently throughout the book, but they're really strong with the demonic stuff. There's a moment in this issue where baby Diana grabs something and throws it, and the sound effect that our letterer Becca Carey puts in there is yeet. As a wrestling fan, I couldn't help but think of Jey Uso when I saw that. There's a moment in this book where young Diana reads The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein for the first time. You know, I didn't read that book for the first time until I was in my 30s, and it genuinely made me cry. So you know what? That struck a chord with me. Incidentally, apparently Shel Silverstein books are available in hell. Now that's what I call distribution. Really, really strong writing from Kelly Thompson in this issue. including a handful of lines from Diana's mother about what exactly it means to raise a child. Again, that really struck a chord with me as a parent. But yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman #1 knocks it out of the park as far as I'm concerned, which means that these Absolute Universe books from DC are now 1-1 as far as I'm concerned. Your move, Absolute Superman. See you in a couple weeks. Oh, man. Whew. Absolute Superman #1 is a tough issue to get through. Today, of all days, the day after election 2024. I actually mean that in a good way. This issue is powerful and poignant and relevant, but it's powerful, poignant, and relevant for different reasons than it would have been had Kamala Harris won the election, in my opinion. Perhaps you'll see what I mean. In Absolute Superman #1, we find out that when Jor-El and Lara, Superman's parents, were alive on Krypton, there was a definitive line between the upper class, the ruling class, and the lower class, the serving class of people. Both Jor-El and Lara had opportunities to be in the upper class, but because they spoke out and were honest, they ended up in the lower class, the serving class. We also find out that the planet Krypton was destroyed because of an environmental crisis that was largely ignored by the upper class scientists. Jor-El, though, as a lower class scientist, was warning people about it. And then in the present day on Earth, we find Superman amongst a group of miners who are being forced to inhale asbestos as they work by their big corporate bosses, which is, of course, hazardous to their health. Everybody getting this so far? The book also does something kind of interesting with Lois Lane, but that doesn't really factor in too heavily to what we get in this issue. Our penciler, Rafa Sandoval, delivers a career performance here. Really proud of him for what he accomplishes with this issue. He's been turning in great work for a long time. You know, Superman was created in the 1930s by two Jewish boys as a champion for the downtrodden and the oppressed, as somebody who used his superpowers to cut through corruption and greed. This issue, as much as any other opening statement I've ever read on Superman, really captures that fighter for the underdog spirit of the character. And quite frankly, that's largely the Superman that we need right now. I'm somebody who's been critical of our author Jason Aaron's work in other places and at other times, but I am really proud of him for what he accomplished with this issue and what I hope he continues to accomplish with this Absolute Superman book. You know, again, the timing of the release of this book, coming out the day after Election Day, is a little too perfect for me. I can't help but wonder if DC did that on purpose, and if they did do it on purpose, whether that was a good decision or a bad decision. I guess maybe it depends on your perspective.